Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about a very good topic. We're going to be talking about perimenopause. I know a lot of my patients have been asking me a lot of questions, and I can't wait to deep dive in there with you. And I have an amazing guest for you today. We're going to be talking about perimenopause and also bioidentical hormone therapy. If you are on your 30s and your 40s, you need to make sure you watch this episode. Grab your pen and your paper to take notes because we're going to talk about everything the woman needs to know, even on their early 30s, to be well. And I can't wait to have a bunch of different questions I want to ask, and I can't wait to share this episode with you. Welcome to Be Healthy Podcast, the best way to discover practical tips and holistic health information from amazing wellness experts and even people with incredible health journey stories to inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Hi, I'm Anna Marino. I'm a self-healing specialist, a physical therapist, a mind-body coach, a bestseller, author, and a public speaker. I heal myself before, and I know you have the power to heal yourself too. And today we will talk with the Dr. Ina Lozinskaya. Hope I got that right. She's the founder and the CEO of the Midlife Wellness Institute, and she has so much wisdom to share with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, can you please share more with us about your story and how did you got here with all these years of experience and you have, and a little bit about your story with the perimenopause as well?
Gosh, it was a long road. I started practicing medicine years ago as a traditional doc. I worked in a hospital, and most of my patients were critically ill, either in intensive care unit or on specialty floors. And I was doing traditional medicine over 2 decades. And what I kept noticing is that people were so sick, and it seemed like we spent third of our lives, if not half, being ill, in and out of the hospital, and just so didn't make sense. And I always felt that something was missing. We were seeing people critically ill, we would treat them, they would come back, eventually they would get well, they would go home, and then we would see them back later that year or next year, critically ill again, either with something else or with the same thing. And I always wondered, what is it that we're missing? Why is it that we make people better, but we can't really get them back to optimal health again? And then I got through my own story that I started experiencing really in my late 20s. And I really didn't have an explanation for those symptoms I experienced. I was exhausted all the time. I couldn't really, it made no sense. I could get whole night sleep, and in the morning I looked like I just was on call and worked hard all night. And it was getting worse. I really didn't have an explanation for it. I started gaining weight. In my late 20s, we moved to this country, my husband and I, at 25. And just several years later, all of a sudden, I was plus 15 pounds. No explanation whatsoever. I didn't change my eating habits. I still ate what I used to eat. Of course, food was different here, but it didn't seem to be that dramatically different. And then I started having problems with my skin and with my hair, and couldn't sleep and felt more anxious. In my 30s, I didn't have panic attacks, but I was close to that. I would wake up in the middle of the night, just heart racing for no reason, really. Could not figure it out. Then I started having miscarriages, and of course that was big heartbreak, and that forced me to see the doctors and try to figure out what's going on. And that introduced me to the story that so many clients come with. I don't feel well, I don't feel like myself anymore. I see doctor after doctor. They test my blood work. They tell me everything is normal. It's just my age. And I heard that phrase for the first time when I was 30, when I came with a little bit of anxiety and weight gain and fatigue. And I was told, well, you're 30 now. And I thought, wow, I didn't think about age at 30. And then it was worse and worse. And by 40, I definitely didn't feel well. And everything was so much worse. And I was told, well, you are 40 now. And I thought, goodness, I can't wait to be 50 then. I cannot imagine how that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And at age 40, it just was bad enough. I started losing my memory, and that was affecting my work. And that was that line that I couldn't cross anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that traditional medicine that I love so much and respect so much has a lot of tools to help us survive, but it really doesn't have tools to help us thrive. And so if I wanted to be thriving, I really needed to look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the journey started. And I thought, if Western medicine doesn't have answers, maybe Eastern medicine does. So I went to Harvard Medical School to study Chinese medicine for physicians. And I loved the course. I learned quite a bit about energetics and prevention. And I used it on myself, and I felt a little bit better, but it wasn't a deal breaker. I certainly didn't feel like me in my early 20s. And then I studied Ayurvedic medicine. And the more I studied, and mind body medicine, and the more I studied, the more tools I got. But nothing was dramatically changing my health. And I kept getting worse, and I was more and more fatigued. And now I really couldn't sleep. I could get maybe 3 hours per night. And the rest of the time I was laying there, not able to fall asleep. So something was definitely off. And I just wasn't ready to accept it's just your age, it's normal, your blood work is normal. I kept searching, and that's how I found functional medicine, and it was completely life-changing. I studied at Institute for Functional Medicine first, and I started applying those principles to my own health. Within 2 months, I felt 60% better. Within 6 months, I was back. My life was back. It was me. I was vibrant. I had abundant energy. I was waking up in the morning ready to take on the day. I felt great. My hormones were back to balance. Everything was back to balance. I really, looking back at age 45, when I finally figured it all out, I felt way better than I did when I was 30 and 35. And I really want my life back, but it is what it is. And what I've learned, there was no way I could go back to traditional medicine and tell people this is the only way, and tell people that you just have to accept life as is and keep getting worse and slowly decay until you end up in and out of the hospital. I realized all those patients I took care of with Alzheimer's and heart disease and cancers and autoimmunity, so much of that was preventable. So much of that could be reversed, and there was no way I could stay in the system. So I stepped out. I quit hospital work after 26 years doing it, and opened my practice, functional medicine practice, Midlife Wellness Institute. And we focus on really giving people their lives back, not just treating the symptoms with medications, which is really Band-Aid. Short term, it works and it's a great option. But long term, it doesn't reverse chronic illness. And most of what we see in medicine nowadays is chronic illness, and that's based on lifestyle that we have and nutrition, and all these factors are modifiable. So we get people feel better, we get them, help them get energy back and sleep normalized and hormones optimized, and practically everyone in a month or two of working with us comes back and says, oh, I feel like I'm back, I feel like myself again, and I love this work.
Oh my gosh, that just like warms my heart. I just love, love, love your story. There are just so many good gems on that. And I think it's so important for us to recognize first there is hope. I think I see that a lot of my patients, like many times I get a lot of patients, like you say, they've been around, they see every single doctor, and everybody's like, nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong. And they lose hope. And
Yeah,
I think when I hear doctors like you, and it just like makes me such a fresh air with like yes, they need more people that like us, then like bringing that message like, hey, there is another way, and there is
absolutely.
hope. We can definitely do things differently. And I think it's so important what you were saying. Yes, hospital and medication has a place for. If you break a bone, please take me to the hospital, right? It's
Yeah.
like if something urgent happen, the medication, the hospital, those are the best solutions for acute situations like that, for sure. But when we looking at chronic problems, there is so much more available that we can offer when we're looking from the cause versus just the symptoms. And I love how you kind of brought it up. Even being a doctor yourself, I love that you went and studied so many different modalities. That's like incredible. Like you went to the Chinese area, the Ayurveda, the functional medicine, like you bring all of those pieces and the best of each one of them into your practice. And I'm sure your patients are so lucky to have you and share all this wisdom that you bring in. One thing that you share there that I would love to kind of explore a little bit more is about the normal lab work, especially when we think about perimenopause. And let's kind of start with like, what is perimenopause? Let's explain that, bring to more natural terms, and then if you can kind of expand a little bit more as far as why people keep getting those normal lab tests, but they're actually not normal.
Yes. So let me start with one point that is well defined. Let me start with menopause and then we'll go back. Menopause is a time in one's life when hormones changed enough that she no longer has periods. And 12 months without periods defines menopause. Now, perimenopause is many years leading towards menopause, but before menopause itself. Perimenopause takes about 12 years, so it's really your 40s. On average, perimenopause begins somewhere around age 35. In somebody who is healthy, it will begin somewhere between 35 to 40. We see earlier and earlier perimenopause because some women are really out of balance, they live stressful lifestyle, or their nutrition is very far from optimal, and for them perimenopause can start even around 30, pretty much like it was for me. And the good news that looking back now, knowing now what I didn't know back then, unfortunately, often early perimenopause is really hormone imbalance due to lifestyle and nutrition that are not optimal. In those cases, when women come to us and they have all these imbalances at 30, and we question, is it early perimenopause? When we balance everything, quite often they actually go right back to absolutely normal, balanced hormones, no symptoms. So it's not perimenopause yet. But usually somewhere between 35 to 40, normally hormones will begin to shift, and it's a very slow shift that will take about 10 to 12 years. And average age for menopause in the United States is about 51 to 52. So 12 years prior to that, those are your perimenopausal years. Now, my labs are normal, but I don't feel normal. Here is purely game of statistics. Here's how we get normal ranges for the labs. We take everybody who took, let's say, thyroid test in the country, and we say, well, this is 100%. Let's remove the outliers, 5% on one side, 5% on the other side. Those are extremes. Let's keep the rest of the 90. That becomes your normal. Now, how many women out there who are walking around, not feeling well, at all, not feeling normal whatsoever, but we tell them your labs is normal. So this is a huge range that we use. Now, the utility of that range is we don't call everybody sick and we don't want to put everybody on medications. So we say, okay, 90% more or less normal. That's your normal range. People who are outside of that huge norm, now we call disease. And everybody else that falls into this normal, of course, they're not feeling well. So there is normal, which is this huge range that basically says you don't have a disease yet. You don't qualify to be on medications. And then within that normal, much narrower group is actually optimal. So for them, that level of hormone is actually optimal. Their body works well. And then there is big group on one side and on the other side that is normal but not optimal. So they come to us just because they use thyroid. They come to us, they gain weight, they have early gray hair, they cannot conceive, they keep miscarrying, they're depressed, they cannot sleep, they have all the symptoms of hypothyroidism. But they're normal, which means they don't need to be on synthroids, they don't need to be on the drug. And so we call them normal in traditional medicine because we don't have other tools to help. Now, in functional medicine, we use nutrition and detoxification and herbs and supplements for hormone optimization and lifestyle and mindset. We have a lot of tools to optimize those people. So they're still not sick, they're normal, but they're not optimal. And so we have a lot of tools to help them to get back into that middle optimal range.
I love that. And I can totally relate that when I think about my patients for physical therapists, because it's kind of similar. Like some of the insurance company would say, okay, it's functional. You're walking from here to the car. That's all you need. It's functional, right? But if you're going hiking with your family and they hurt, sorry, that's not optimal, then it's normal. And I think even for people to bring them more to, because sometimes people get confused with the hormones because it's not as tangible, but bringing that to a physical component is like, okay, we want to be able to be optimal. We want to be able to be functional with the body, right? It's like if you wanted to be able to go hike and do sports and live your life the way you wanted to live without the limitations. And I think if we bring in the metaphor to the hormones, it's the same thing. We are surviving.
Exactly.
We're not optimal. We want to thrive, exactly. Then that's a really good point there to kind of clarify that. And I guess just for the listeners, understanding the difference with the testing that she is referring to, Dr. Anna is referring to, is you do need to go to a doctor that is functional medicine based to get the lab work. Then please contact Dr. Anna. She can definitely help you order some specific tests because it's not the regular test that you're going to get with the regular doctor. And I think some people get confused with that. There are two different tests that would give you different answers. Right? Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Then make sure that you, if your regular labs are normal, then make sure that you find a functional medicine doctor like Dr. Ina. Please contact her and get those more specific tests because that's when you're going to find the optimal versus functional versus okay. Right? We don't want to feel okay. We want to feel great. So like we have all this long life to live, that we definitely want to optimize that. I love that explanation. Excellent.
Yes, my main message is always don't settle for normal, don't settle for feeling mediocre, and that's just your age. If you're 97, yeah, you slowed down by age, but if you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's not your age. Something is not functioning well, something is out of balance, and things can always be brought back to balance, and you are in charge of it. So, you know.
Oh, absolutely. I had one of my oldest patients that I work with. She is, I think when we started working together, she was about 9'2". And she came for her posture and her pain and like a lot of that energy level, and she was slowing down on her balance, and she's like, I'm 9'2", it's all I can do. And her goal was actually be able to travel again. She had a friend in Canada. She's like, I want to be able to go by myself in the airport and travel. And she did. We worked together for a while and she got back. She actually started going to the gym. She worked with a personal trainer 2 to 3 times a week. She travels. Then every time the patient comes and say, oh, I'm too old, this is my age. And I was like, hold on a second. If she's 92, 93, 95, because I worked with her for a few years, and she still can do all of that, let's not use age as an excuse anymore because it's possible. And now with the new tools, with the techniques and new labs and new information that we have, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, then can you tell us more about the estrogen? I think a lot of people have questions about, is that a villain? Is that a good thing? Like, I know there's a lot of questions about that. Can you share a little bit more about what women need to look for, what's good, what's bad?
Sure. Estrogen is one of the sex hormones in a woman's body. Actually, men have it too. Obviously, women have a lot more of it. Estrogen is certainly not a villain. Estrogen is the hormone that makes your hair lustrous and your skin supple and your eyes shiny. And estrogen helps you want things. Estrogen is one of those, it's not go-getter. Testosterone is a go-getter. But before you get it done, you want a motivation to even want it. And that's your estrogen. So estrogen is definitely an important hormone. Even more importantly, even though it's sex hormone and it's certainly responsible for women looking like women and having secondary sex characteristics, but estrogen is extremely important for our health. In fact, most of the receptors for estrogen in our body is not in our sex hormones. It's in our brain. So brain needs estrogen to think, to process, to form memories. Usually one of the symptoms that women have that they come to us very close to menopause or after menopause, it's like, I started forgetting words. Is it early Alzheimer's? Like, no, it's menopause. And put them back on estrogen, bioidentical estrogen, and in a month they're like, oh, it wasn't menopause. I remember everything again. So you need estrogen for brain. You need estrogen for bone health. When estrogen goes downhill, your bones starting to get thinner and thinner, and you end up with osteoporosis. Your estrogen is extremely important for your heart. And by the way, with all the concern for estrogen and cancers, and we'll talk about that, reality is most women in our country don't die of breast cancer. They die of heart disease. And women have very low risk for heart disease before menopause. And once we go through menopause, within the next year or two, we catch up with the guys on the risk for heart disease. So estrogen is extremely important. Estrogen is your look good. Estrogen is your feel good. Estrogen is your feel young and be young and be well and be healthy hormone. Now, other situations when there is a little bit too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing, certainly. In perimenopause, one of the hallmarks of perimenopause, the very first hormone that starts going downhill, usually in our mid-30s, sometimes even in earlier 30s, is progesterone. And progesterone's job, it's very important hormone on its own, but progesterone's job is to keep estrogen balanced. So they play well with each other, we look great, we feel great, we function well. When progesterone starts going downhill, and it's not all of a sudden you lose it, it's just some months you don't ovulate anymore, which means you won't have a whole lot of progesterone around. So estrogen runs around without its body progesterone. And so now it becomes a little bit misbehaving. One. So when you don't have enough progesterone to balance out that estrogen, we develop what we call estrogen predominance. And when we have estrogen predominance, we will start gaining weight, and that's what women will experience. Not all, but some will experience in their 40s, when I'm eating the way I used to, I'm exercising the way I used to, or even more, and I still gain weight, we become heavier in our hips. That's estrogen predominance. Mood swings, PMS, your husband is not safe in the household for 3 months at the time, and then things are good again. That's estrogen predominance. So estrogen is a very important hormone and we need it, but it has to be balanced, just like anything else in life. So that's really something important to know about estrogen. Now, there are different ways we can develop estrogen predominance in our perimenopause, in other words, in our 30s and 40s and early 50s. First of all, like I said, your progesterone naturally will go down so many months, and with age more and more often, your estrogen will just not have progesterone to team up with. That's one mechanism. Second, I see, because of our nutrition and stressful lifestyle, many of us get out of balance in our 30s and definitely by 40s. Our gut is not working well, and a lot of women will have constipation. Now, gut is extremely important for estrogen balance. So if you make normal amount of estrogen, but you're constipated, you are not getting rid of that estrogen. And as it sits there in your gut, it gets reabsorbed. So your body is still making estrogen, which is beautiful, but now you get all that extra estrogen coming back into the circulation and doubling up.
Oh, wow.
So women with constipation will have estrogen predominance. And these are the women that commonly will develop fibrocystic breasts and have endometriosis and have uterine fibromas. That's estrogen dominance. So that's second mechanism of getting too much estrogen, even though the production is just fine. And sometimes liver is not functioning well if your body is full of toxins and genetically your cleansing system is weakish and you're putting too much toxicity into your body and your liver is super busy getting rid of all that toxicity. So the hormones are sort of, second priority. Liver is just not able to keep up with all those toxins plus the hormone processing. So then estrogen starts accumulating. That's another mechanism for estrogen dominance. And the last one, genetically, we all break down estrogen in different ways. And some of us genetically will break down estrogen in a way where we make more metabolites that are what we call proliferative. Those women are a little bit at higher risk for breast cancer later or some other conditions. That is, we test for that. We make sure that your body breaks down, and that's genetic. It can be modified with nutrition. It can be modified with lifestyle. It can be modified with supplements. So it's not like, well, sorry, it's your genetics. It's something to be aware of. So when we work with women in perimenopause, or when we have postmenopausal women, we put on estrogen replacement, we definitely check how your body breaks down estrogen and how it eliminates it. And so that's why I always say hormones have to come into a healthy body to work well and not sure to give you benefit and not give you the risks. And that's really the essence of it. The hormones are extremely important. When people say estrogen is dangerous, the most of estrogen we will get will be between age of 16, maybe 17 and 24. And we look great and we feel great. So obviously estrogen is not a villain. It's our bodies that is less and less and less healthy with age because of what we do with it and what we put in our mouth and sometimes on our skin unknowingly. We're not taught on that. I had to learn it in functional medicine. I'm a medical doctor. I got a lot of training every year, at least 2 conferences. I was always up to date. I read daily. I didn't know any of that. It's not what they teach you in medical school. My book is coming out in January, and I called it what they don't teach you at Harvard Medical School. Because in the best medical schools in the world, they teach you a lot. We learn everything about disease, but we don't learn so much about functional normal, functional optimum, I should say. And so all those things I had to learn in functional medicine. So when you come to your primary care doc or your gynecologist and they're not trained in functional medicine, of course they don't know, and you never know what you don't know. So they tell you it's normal. It's not optimal. It can be tested, it can be found, it can be optimized. You just need to know.
Oh, I love that. Oh, so good. Hopefully you guys are taking a lot of notes there, because there's a lot of good information. But I think one of the things that comes to mind as kind of a summary of all that you say there is about balance. It's not like one is good or one is bad, but it's really going back to like, how can we maintain that balance? Because that's really what the body wants, right? The digestive system needs to be in balance. The detox system needs to be in balance. The liver, kidney, gotta be able to remove those toxins. If we are keeping everything in the body, of course it's going to create a problem. Of course it's going to create disease. It makes sense that when we're looking at hormones, we also need to take in consideration the other systems. They don't work by itself. And I love that reminder when you're saying that. It's like, how is the liver doing? Are you constipated? Are you having any other autoimmune problems? Like, how the other systems playing together with the hormones versus just remove the hormones and be like, okay, we're just going to look at the estrogen and just the progesterone. How about the rest? That's really important for, if your doctors are not taking in consideration all the other details, make sure that you ask questions. I think as a patient, we have that power to ask questions. And I think a lot of times we forget that we just sit there and be like, oh, but they know better. And yeah, they know better in some areas, but we also have the power to ask questions and being educated and understand and request those informations if it's not being given. I think that's really important for you, the listeners. Make sure, write all your questions down before you go to the doctor and ask if that's not being mentioned. And that's really, really important pieces there.
Yes, and when you're told it's just your age, you're depressed, just realize it's probably another way to say I don't know, and it's okay. Just find the one who knows. Find the doctor who is trained, who hears you, who listens. We can, traditional doctors obviously know way more about science than our patients do, but nobody knows your body better. Nobody knows what feels right and what doesn't feel right. So don't take no for an answer. No just means you cannot help me. It's okay. Find the one who can.
Absolutely. And that's what I talk about with my patients, about the body awareness. That's one of my 4 pillars of self-healing. I always talk about the body awareness. Like, we need to know our body better than anybody. Like the doctors, physical therapists, the coaches, all of us come as a healthcare provider, as an aide, as assistant. But in the end, the more information the patient can give to us, the better we can do our job. Then it's so important for us as humans, as patients, to be able to identify, connect to our body, feel our body, know the things that work, know the things that doesn't work. I was working for a patient earlier today on body awareness, actually, and she's like, oh, but the trainer told me to do 3 sets of 15, and I did it, and then now I'm feeling I can barely walk. And it's like, we don't have to do it just because someone told us to do it. It's okay to say, hey, this supplement's not working. Hey, this exercise is too much. Or it doesn't feel right to my body. I don't agree with that. Those are all okay. The more we connect to our body, the more we know what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And that help the practitioner that we're working with to actually make better suggestions too.
Yes.
So important. Good. Okay, then let's kind of do a little bit summary as far as the perimenopause symptoms. I know you kind of like pinpoint a bunch of different symptoms there, but I'm curious as far as how do you know that it's time to actually look to a doctor, like go to do the test? Like, how does the woman know that moment of like, I just didn't sleep well versus like, okay, I gotta get checked.
First of all, I believe it's actually a good idea to check your hormones once when you're actually feeling good. When you're younger, because all of us have different, even that optimal is optimal for you. I wish I had my hormones checked when I felt great at 25, because later on, and with my clients, they come to me in menopause, and now we have to sort of feel our way, figuring out what are the optimal doses for them and optimal levels, and watch how they feel. And we will do it anyway, it's very important. But it's nice to know what was body making when everything was perfectly well. So I think it would be a good practice to run your hormones, just know your norm. Everything feels great, everything works great, whether you are 30 or 35, doesn't matter. That's how well feels, that's how well looks in numbers. So that's sort of your baseline. When you really feel that you need to see a doctor, it's really just sort of a gut feel. And one day you just feel like, I'm not sick, I'm just not well anymore.
Donna, just a second before you get to the second part of that. Like, what is the age that you recommend that people to get tested for their wellness check?
Somewhere between 30 and 35 is not a bad idea to ask a doctor to run your hormones. If you don't feel well, we get people with early thyroid disease, and they're in their early 20s.
Oh,
So
wow.
obviously things needed to be checked sooner. But those are women that don't feel well and there are symptoms, so they know they need that something is wrong.
Okay.
For normal feel well, if you're feeling great and you're 33, at some point I would check.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think it's a good practice. Insurances check a few things because they're screening for people who need to be on medications, who need to be treated. In other words, traditional medicine is screening you for disease. It's important. We don't want to miss illness.
Mhm.
But if you don't have a disease, then everything is normal. Within that normal becomes your optimal versus not optimal. So, you feel great, get one check and establish your baseline. And then when things start feeling different, you had a sleepless night because you had an argument, I don't know, with your spouse or with your mom, you don't need to see a doctor. You just need to figure out how to solve problems. But, if you're starting to feel anxious for no reason, and if you start waking up at 3 in the morning, or you cannot fall asleep and it takes you an hour or two to fall asleep, something is off. And it might not be, the earlier you spot it, the earlier you figure it out, the less trouble you get into, the less you need to repair later on. Prevention is the key.
Awesome.
So usually with perimenopause, most of the time women come to us either because they started gaining weight or because they can't sleep. Those are two things that are hard to ignore. So usually women starts looking for explanation and help. We get women coming to us with irregular cycles, heavy bleeding, prolonged bleeding, very short cycles, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm cycling every 20 days, and they get anemic because they lose so much blood. That's estrogen predominance, by the way. Usually there are other things that can cause it, but your hormones are most likely off. Gaining weight, early gray hair, fatigue, low energy. It's not always hormones, and it's not always sex hormones. But if you're experiencing fatigue, there is definitely something there. Again, you worked out too much 3 days in a row and now everything hurts. Well, common sense suggests your workout routine. But if you're feeling tired, you wake up and you're already tired, or at 10 in the morning, that's your third coffee to keep going, or at 3 p.m. you need a pastry and or something sweet and another coffee to keep going. That's not normal. That's not normal. Something is going on with your adrenals. That's not necessarily sex hormones. That's most likely your adrenals or your thyroid. It could be toxins, it could be other things, but it's not normal. Something is happening. And the earlier you catch it and reverse it, the easier it is. Things are very easy to bring back to balance when you are in 30s. Things are much easier to bring balance back to balance in 40s than in late 50s. Things are certainly much easier to fix in 50s than in 60s. I mean, everything's relative. The longer we have a problem, the more we have that problem. So, the more it takes, more work and more time it takes to bring you back. Again, we have clients who come to us at 70s, and my oldest client was 84, and, we still got him swimming laps and feeling great. So you can feel better at any age, but if something is off, don't sit on it for years. Try to find the answers sooner.
Yeah, and I love what you say there, because I think people has this misconception of like perimenopause. You only know because you start skipping the period or you start not having for months. And I think I love how you kind of mentioned that like sometimes it's actually getting shorter, or sometimes it's getting more intense. It's just any change of your period doesn't have to necessarily be that you're already skipping months.
Oh yeah,
It can be either or. I think that's a really important piece for people to pay attention, because I think a lot of times when people see those variations, like, oh, that's not menopause because it's happening, I'm having my period. And it's like, yes, but then it's like you say, if you have the baseline, then it's going to be so much easier for you to go back now and compare, okay, are the hormones that's causing that, or is that something else? Even to rule out, I think that's also really important to mention. Like you said, there are other things that could cause, but I think in our area of expertise, is like, even if you know that, okay, that's not it, that's also very valid. I think a lot of times people come to me like, well, I don't want to check because what if it's not? But knowing that's not sometimes is as beneficial as knowing that it is, because okay, then let's not go to that direction. Let's go to a different direction. Then that gives us information one way or the other.
Exactly. If something doesn't feel right, nature loves balance. So if something changes, if you cannot sleep regularly, if you lose a regularity of your period, you will start skipping periods much later in perimenopause. That's more of like late 40s. Most of the times, there are some conditions where it happens earlier, and we're usually able to bring it back to regular. So when something used to be regular, you wake up in the morning, every morning, and you're ready to take on the day, and you had a good night's sleep, and now it's not the case. Something changed. So what is it?
I love that. So important. So, and that's where the body awareness also coming, right? The more we know ourselves, the more we can identify, okay, this is out, this is off. Like something is not working properly in my body. Let me go check. Then, yes, so important. All right, let's shift the gears a little bit towards the bioidentical hormones, because I know a lot of people have questions about that. Then let's explore a little bit more about what it is. Let's kind of start with that, and keep simple.
Bioidentical hormones are hormones that are structurally exactly identical to what your body used to make. That's why we call them bioidentical. So structurally, they're exactly the same. In traditional medicine, way back when we used Premarin, you can argue it's natural. It came out of horse urine. It's just, horses are horses and humans are humans. Our estrogen, it looks a little bit different structurally. So it wasn't bioidentical to us, even though it was natural. And then progestin that used to be used in 90s and early 2000s and still around in birth control pills. But when it's used for hormone replacement, it's not bioidentical. It's not identical at all. In fact, progesterone, your own hormone that your body makes, is its main purpose, it has multiple roles, but its main purpose is to maintain pregnancy, where progestin in your birth control pills does just the opposite. It's there to prevent pregnancy. So, and I like to use this example because I think it makes it very clear that progestin is not the same as progesterone that your body makes. It looks alike, it has some properties, but it's not the same. So when it gets inside your body, it does very different things. So if you're using as a hormone replacement, whether you're doing estrogen or progesterone or testosterone, it's very important to use the hormones that are structurally exactly identical to what your body used to make. So body knows what it is, body knows how to use it, and body uses it properly. And that's what makes hormone replacement safer. Because again, it's something familiar, body knows how to deal with it. Because realistically, everything that gets inside your body, from body standpoint, is either really good for you and it helps you feel great because it helps normal processes, or it's a toxin. Body looks at things, nature looks at things in a very not simplistic, but common sense way. It's either useful or it's not. And if it's not, it's a toxin, it needs to come out. And it takes some work to get it out. So when you get bioidentical hormones, it's exactly what your body knows what to do with, how to do, and how to plug it into the processes that these hormones were designed for. So that's bioidentical hormones. We use bioidentical hormone replacement therapy to substitute or replace something that used to be made but no longer made. In perimenopause, since we're focusing mostly on perimenopause today, in perimenopause, first hormone that goes away is progesterone. And that puts you at risk for estrogen dominance, that puts you at risk for insomnia. Your progesterone is your Hakuna Matata hormone. Life is good, everything is normal. It calms you down, it calms your brain. Brain needs your progesterone. So it's really calming. Bones needed. I mean, there are a lot of roles that progesterone plays in your body. So when progesterone goes away, your periods will get shorter. Your cycles will get shorter, your periods might get longer because of that. And giving women back progesterone, just a little bit bioidentical progesterone, will restore that cycle, will take care of symptoms. She's no longer anxious. She's no longer having panic attacks at 3 in the morning. She can sleep through the night, so she keeps her sanity and can deal with job, family, kids, and a million other things that women carry on their shoulders when they're 40s. So that's first hormones that usually needs replacement in perimenopause. And then testosterone, the king of the fields. Testosterone is your motivator, testosterone is your go-getter, testosterone is important for also for your brain, for your executive functioning. And so women start losing testosterone relatively early. Some usually early 40s, it starts declining. For some, it's really noticeable. For some, it's not all that noticeable until like second part of 40s, like 45 and after. But testosterone will go down. Now, testosterone triggers the production if you work out, if you do weights or resistance training, you actually will maintain your testosterone on a higher level longer. But at some point, it starts going downhill. And again, when you lose your testosterone, you start losing muscle mass. And as you start losing muscle mass, you start developing insulin resistance, and your immune system is not as strong, and now you're at risk for autoimmune disease. That's why women develop autoimmunity in their 30s and 40s, and definitely it goes way up with menopause. So that second hormone that sometimes we have to replace if we cannot get it up naturally with herbs and lifestyle and good nutrition and ample sleep and all that. That second hormone that we need to replace. Estrogen does not need replacement until you're fully menopausal. unless in some situations, for some women, that last part of perimenopause is very much prolonged, and she still has periods once every, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months. So she's not officially in menopause, but your estrogen is so low on many months that she already has hot flashes and night sweats. And so now they wake you up, she cannot sleep, she cannot get rested, which makes night sweats worse. And so it's just vicious cycle. So in those women, sometimes we have to use just tiny bit of estrogen in addition to what their body makes. So it's a game. It's a game of, hormones are like good symphony. You really have to listen and watch what's happening and see where you need support, and you might need this support this month and something different in a different months. So that's really the essence of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It's really about sex hormones. And then, of course, when we work in our practice, when we work with women with any kind of hormone imbalance, you have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at cortisol. You have to look what stress hormone or your stress fighting system is doing. And I've seen so many women coming to us from other practices. They own bioidentical hormone replacement, but they're not feeling well. And so they come and say, well, I got on hormones, but I still don't feel like myself. And we test and their cortisol is off, either too high or too low. When your cortisol, when your adrenals are not optimal, nothing will make you feel better. It doesn't matter. You can crank up, playing with numbers in your labs can give you good looking numbers, but you're not going to feel well until that balance is reestablished. And so we look at cortisol, we look at DHEA, which is your thrive hormone. Your cortisol is your survive hormone.
Yeah,
your DHEA is your thrive hormone, and they work together. And it's important to have both at right balance, and make sure that one naturally goes downhill after 40s. It goes way down in menopause, so that needs to be supported as well. Men usually are much more sensitive to low DHEA than women, but both will feel it, and so replacing it gives them more energy and just brighter outlook on life and better mood and all that. And then we always look at thyroid, and often when women come to us, even at earlier age, their sex hormones are still holding, everything is good. They come to us with thyroid being suboptimal. Sometimes it's direct thyroid issue. Sometimes they're eating foods that they should not be eating and their body is struggling and it affects their thyroid. So sometimes it's simple as that. Sometimes it's issues with being able to cleanse properly and having toxins in their body, like heavy metals or molds that will always affect your thyroid. And sometimes it's actually stress systems that's not firing well, and somebody gets stuck in fight or flight response, their cortisol is abnormal. Thyroid can work normally as a gland, but hormone cannot function well. So often we have to optimize their adrenals, and all of a sudden we don't need to do anything for thyroid. Thyroid just naturally starts working. So all of it, it's all interconnected. And it's important to look at the whole picture, not at just one hormone and just replace it and get a good number and say life is good, and the woman is still not feeling good.
Absolutely. I think the metaphor of being a symphony, like everything must be working. That was a perfect metaphor there. I love that. And understanding, okay, if we try and play this instrument and this one is out of tune, let's try doing something else. And I think that also explains to a lot of people why sometimes people do the hormonal replacement and also to feel worse. And it's identify, okay, maybe that wasn't necessarily the primary problem. Let's work on the other, like the stress hormones are very, very, very typical. I work a lot of stress management. People in chronic pain usually have the cortisol really high because of all the pain and inflammation. The body go into that adrenal response, stress. The tiger's coming. And once we start dropping the pain, dropping the stress, the body can start to self-regulate. And then that of course will affect all the other systems. That can cause constipation, that can cause problems with the kidney, that can cause problems on the brain. Then it is the systems working together. I think that's important for people to understand. This is not a black and white switch that you're just going to be like, okay, get this pill and everything is going to work. We got to look at the whole system, identify what's the cause, identify what's the primary. Okay, we're going to work on this system. They added this system and then create that combination that you're talking about it to be able to get the optimal, go back to that word, the optimal result. And if it's not working, it's like the GPS. I talk about the brain with neuroplasticity, right? It's like we go to that street, we're driving, it's not working, we're calculating, go somewhere else. It's like, try a different route. Let's try a different direction. And again, bringing back the body awareness to be able to communicate that with your doctors. Hey, this is not working because I'm feeling this, this, and this, and this. What else can we do? I think that's a really, really important piece there as well.
Yeah, and I love that you brought the points that you brought up about body being able to self-regulate. I mean, when somebody goes through menopause or andropause, something is not produced anymore. Okay, that's deficiency. It cannot be restored by the body anymore because you are in that phase of life. So now you need adding it back to the system. But in perimenopause, classic time where your body always wants to self-regulate back to normal. Mm-hmm. So if it cannot get back to balance, something is in the way. Is it nutrition? Is it lifestyle? Is it cleansing system? Is it genetic variation? There is something there. And when you give body, sometimes it's nutritional deficiency or microelement deficiencies. So when you give body back what it needs, when you stop doing things that your body is not doing well with, body will be able to pick up from there and self-regulate and get itself back to balance. That's a very important point.
That is, yeah, absolutely. The whole self-healing. I'm a big believer. The body knows what to do. We just gotta help.
Exactly. Sometimes it's you gotta help, sometimes you need to get out of the way. But bottom line is that if something is not flowing, if there is dis-ease or imbalance, something needs to change. And you figure out what needs to change, you give it back to the body will know how to do the rest.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then going back to the idea of the treatment, that the bioidentical is definitely one treatment. Then what are other tips that you can kind of give to the women that are having some symptoms? Like what are things that people can do at home that can start to self-regulate, to prevent, like I love how you mentioned exercise for testosterone. Absolutely. Yes, woman does decrease testosterone. That is a thing. Then make sure that we keep our exercise and weight training, definitely a really big help with that. As a physical therapist, I definitely validate that as well. But what are other things that people can think about as far as preventive care or helping with like solutions for that time?
So I like simple and I like easy, so you can do it at home every day. Your hormones are made out of fat. So that low-fat diet put half of our nation into testosterone deficiency and second half into early dementia or just memory loss rather than disease. Fat is extremely important. It's really something that your body needs every day. You need good fats, you don't want bad fats. But body needs it on a daily basis. Low-fat diet was a thought. It was we thought it was right. I mean, it was an earnest mistake. But now that we clearly know that it's, on top of everything else, now we have epidemic of heart disease as a result of that idea. We're not designed to have low-fat diets. We're designed to eat healthy fats. That's different. But we need fat every day. Don't be afraid of it. I love that Dr. Mark Hyman called his book, Get Fat, Eat Fat, Get Thin. It's very important. Fat is your source of energy. 60% of your brain is fat, fatty acids. So If you're not eating enough fats every day, you're depriving your brain of ability to function well, and you will feel it. Your memory will get less, your executive functioning, you will start processing slower. It's a reality. Your testosterone is 95% just cholesterol-ridden, so go and get on low-fat diet. You're guaranteed to have testosterone deficiency, whether you're a man or a woman. So having healthy fats every day, your olive oil, your avocado oil, your MCT oil, great fuel for your brain. Your ghee butter. So those healthy fats are really good for you. Make sure that you have them in your diet every single day. Second, easy, protein is extremely important. We need about a gram of protein per kilo of our body weight every day. So on average, a woman needs probably somewhere between 40 to 90 grams, depending on your weight. Protein is your building block. Your muscle is made out of amino acids, which is protein, come out of protein. Your any repair process in your body actually requires protein. Another point that I really want to bring up, because juice fasts are so popular now, and water fasts, juice fasts. Here is the deal. If you're 100% sure that you don't have any vitamin deficiency, and you're 100% sure that your detoxification system is great, and depending on the literature you read, about 30 to 50% of humanity has genetic variations that makes your cleansing system weaker. So if you're 100% sure, because you tested yourself, that your detoxification or cleansing system is perfect, then you can tolerate juice fast here and there, or juice cleanse and water fast, whatever. But if your cleansing system is weak and you're not having protein you need daily, those amino acids are extremely important for detoxification. They're part of the pathways. So if you're trying to cleanse, what you do is cleansing process or detoxification process. It's that pathway has several parts. And so first pathway, body takes a toxin, breaks it down, and metabolites are actually more toxic than the original thing. And so when you're fasting, you facilitate this first part, which is great. You remove all the toxins that were stored in somewhere in the body, and you break them down. But if you lack amino acids necessary for detoxification, guess what? You created more toxic metabolites, and now they're sitting there because they cannot get processed. And the reason I'm saying it, because I don't see a lot of 50 or 60-year-olds coming to me after a juice fast. I think there is some wisdom there, but it's extremely important for younger girls, because they're still healthy, they feel well, and it's trendy. And my girlfriend did it and she lost 10 pounds. How exciting! I will do it. I see quite commonly, women coming to us in 30s and 40s, and they're saying, I did the detox and I feel 100% worse, and now I don't know how to get back. And it's like, So now you made yourself much more toxic, which means much more inflamed. So now we'll have to deal with a lot more problems. So it's very important to realize that, again, if you test it yourself, it's okay, you will handle it. 3 days, not a big deal. But if you don't know, be careful. I would rather there's nothing wrong with fasting. Fasting is great for you. You have to know how to do it, but do it in a smart way. Don't, body needs to be handled gently, because you have to remember, you don't get a second body. You ruin your car because you didn't take care of it, you'll get another car. Last time I checked, you don't get another body. So be gentle with that. And the reason I'm saying is because also, me being as old as I am now, I remember what I was doing to myself to 30s and 40s. I had no mercy, and I paid for it, because body keeps the score. Nothing is forgotten. You think you got away with it, and then 10 years later, your body comes back to you. Remember what you did. So, don't cause damage just because you think you'll get away with it. You will not.
Yeah.
Be careful. Cleansing is very important. Is just do it in a smart way. I would rather say, if you want to cleanse your cruciferous veggies like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, asparagus, it's one family, cauliflower, it's one family, and it has certain chemicals that are actually part of your detoxification pathway, like second part. So, having good like broth for the fast, or so you get a little bit of fat and definitely proteins or amino acids, and adding some cleansing veggies, which broccoli is definitely cleansing veggie. And for women in perimenopause, broccoli is your everything, just trust me. Broccoli and other veggies in that cruciferous family, they help you process extra estrogen. And the reality of perimenopause, sooner or later, we all go through that period of time where progesterone is less and less, made less and less, and estrogen is still made. And that makes us look great in our 40s. I mean, that's your peak. Best hair, best skin, that's your 40s. And the reason being because your estrogen is a little bit unopposed, but again, there is drawback to it. So keep balanced and at least make sure that, it does its beautiful job and now it's time to go. So it's flushed out appropriately. Your cruciferous will do that for you. So those are simple things, don't require science, don't require a doctor, cannot hurt you. You can do them every day, and if you do those 3 things every day, that's that will get you a long ways.
Oh, that's great. Some great tips here. Everybody can do that. Super simple. Everybody can do. Get your broccolis, get your protein, get your healthy fat. That's super simple. Everybody can start doing that today. Then hopefully you can choose at least one of those tips. And I'm curious if you can write it on the comment. What is one of those tips that you can start practicing today? Like take those actions home and start taking advantage of the wisdom that you're learning today. I just wanted to kind of circle back before we close it with the hormone replacement, because I had a lot of people asking me as far as how long can you take that for? And we already addressed that's safe. That's actually a lot safer because it's closer to what the body produces itself. But I'm just curious, can you use that for undetermined time, unlimited time? Is that how long?
So the short answer is we don't really know. The more detailed answer, hormones help you feel better. So we used to believe that bioidentical hormone replacement therapy should be done for symptom management only. If you have hot flashes, night sweats, feeling miserable, depressed, well then, or have severe osteoporosis, well, we will give you estrogen patch. So from that standpoint, the belief was, after 8 or 10 years, body will sort of get used to not having hormones, and then you will stop having those symptoms, or at least they will be less severe, so you don't need hormones anymore. So that's sort of that's one school of thought. What I see and that's how I view my life, and that's how a lot of my colleagues view their lives. I mean, I have colleagues who are still practicing, traveling, having busy lives, doing research. Dr. Pamela Smith is in her 80s now, and she says there is no way I'm giving it up. The reality is, as long as you do it safely and you monitor and you make sure that you're doing the right things and you monitor levels and you monitor what your body does with them, and as a way you're doing it in a smart way, and the doctor who is doing it with you knows, well trained in functional medicine, knows what they're doing, know what to look for, know what risk factors to look for, and what form is safer for you. If all those conditions met, I don't know if there is age limit, and we used to say, if you come to me in 50s, I'll put you on hormone replacement if that's what you need, but if you're in 60s, it's too late. I don't look at it this way, because here is the reality. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we went through menopause. It's a natural process, and menopause came around 49 to 52, somewhere there, and life expectancy was 55 years. So, at 52, a woman was pretty much done with active life. Maybe she'll babysit her grandkids for another 3 years. You don't need a whole lot of hormones for that. And that sort of end of life, it's not a big deal. Life expectancy now, I mean, we live into our 90s. We still go through menopause somewhere between 49 and 52. Women who come to me, I mean, they're in their 70s and 80s. Sometimes they travel the world, they run businesses, they open new business in their 50s and 60s. They live full lives. They want to be productive. They need performance. Hormones are a big part of it. You will not get away without it. It's extremely hard because, body needs what it needs. And hormones are important, not just for well-being, but also for preventing diseases of aging. And so if that's your aim, then I don't know if any of us can say, well, you're 64 and a half now, time to stop. I don't subscribe to that school of thought. It's definitely one of the school of thoughts. And I also think, in traditional medicine, we sort of paternalistic. Patients come to us and we say, this is a guideline, this is what I'm doing. You don't get to vote. In functional medicine and in life, you have to respect your patient. When patients come to my practice, first time we meet together for wellness consultation, I ask them what's their goals, what's their aspirations, what they want, why they want, if they're interested in hormones, what is it that they're looking for. And also, if let's say we were able to reverse the symptoms that they have and get them where they want to be, what is going to be different? Like, what is it that they want to do in life that they can't do today? And so I respect when women come to me and they're in their 60s and unfortunately they were taken off BHRT or not offered BHRT and they're struggling and they're suffering and they don't have major risk factors and they want to feel better and they need their performance. Yeah, we're not going to reverse them way back, and repair what was happening in their body without hormones for 15 years, but they can start feeling better now. You have to be more careful, less doses, all that. So you have to you have to honor the nature. But, I feel that she will tell me if I see risk factors, very different story. But if she's doing well, we're monitoring everything, there are no concerns, she's feeling great, and she tells me, I'm not ready to give it all up. I respect that. Because who am I to tell people how to live their lives, right? It's not
that's so helpful. And again, I just love when I hear that from doctors. Like, yes, we gotta honor the patient as well. Some people are satisfied the way they are, and then who are we to tell otherwise, right? And it's like there are other people that like, no, I really want more. Then okay, great. What else can we do about it? Let's do more. And I think that's so important. But I like how you mentioned there the idea of like, because I feel like it's kind of like a myth of like, oh, okay, you finish perimenopause, you got your hormones, and now you just stop because everything went back to normal. And it's like, oh, normal. It's like,
normal.
Right? The hormone is not going to come back. Then the idea of finding what is that balance and monitor and check your labs and check how you're feeling, checking the risk factor, checking the details, but making the decision together with your doctor, to making sure that it's giving you not just as a symptom solution, as also preventive solution. I think that's so important. We are so conditioned as society to just look at the problem, waiting until the problem happens before we take care of.
Exactly.
And with preventive is just so much better. I took a bunch of notes here. There was so much good information. I'm so excited for the listeners. I'm sure they got a lot of information from today. Then today we talk about the symptoms of perimenopause. What are the things that you can do it? We talk about some of the bioidentical hormones, the BRT, and like what are the things that you need to watch for? What are the things that you can ask your doctor? Make sure that you're working with a functional medicine doctor, they're looking into their lab from an optimal point of view. That was really important. Dr. Ina also shared a bunch of different tips and solutions that you can start applying today. I'm very curious if you can share with us on the comment what was your biggest takeaway for today. Then make sure that you share that with us below. Then we can continue the conversation. And for now, I would love to know, Dr. Ina, if you have a gift, like do you have one gift to share with our listeners today?
Certainly. So I would love to share two gifts.
Yeah.
One is, I wrote a optimal hormone solutions guide. And that's an easy read. It's just a few pages, very concise, very practical, and it goes over each hormone. This is the symptoms. This is how I can tell if something is off. This is when it's too much. This is when it's too low. This is when, so you don't have to be a doctor. It's really, I wrote it for myself is as a patient, as a woman. And so here is how I would look if I didn't have any medical education, way back when I struggled. How would I know that this is a problem? How would I know to seek help? And what is it that I could do at home to tweak easily and quickly and help myself at least a little bit? And then maybe that's all what's needed. And if not, then at least I know that I've done my part. Now I can look for somebody who can help me further. So Optimal Hormone Solutions Guide. I'll share a link and you can go and just download. It's free. We share it. I really want women to be educated. I think we don't do a great service in traditional medicine, unfortunately. We're not educated, so we cannot educate our clients. And so in traditional medicine, I have a lot of doctors as clients because just like me, they have all knowledge in science, but we didn't know what's optimal and what's functional. And so we struggled and suffered silently until finally you learn that somebody actually figured it out and can help you. So grab the solution guide. It's easy. It has examples. It has little stories, but like I said, it's like 5-page reads. So very quick, very, very easy. And it will give you more tips and more solutions. So that link you can share. And second, so sometimes women just look for information, which is great. I love when women get educated so they know. Sometimes they already know that something is off and they cannot help themselves and they need help. If you're interested in working with somebody, you just want to know more, different docs have different strategies, may or may not resonate with you. Sometimes you don't even know what you're looking for yet. We do offer free discovery calls. So I'm happy to share that link if that's what you want. Now, we're busy practice, so I don't want to just sit and chat. It's not. I'm sharing as much as I can in podcasts so people can get information. And then there is a solutions guide so you can help yourself to get educated. But if you're truly at the point where you need help, you will not figure it out alone, or at least you want to be tested and make sure that what's going on is not because of hormones, or that you need help with your gut or with liver, with detoxification, happy to offer discovery call. I usually do it myself, so it's not my staff. I get on call with you. We usually on for 15-20 minutes, and I just want to hear what are you experiencing, so I know what's going on most likely, and I can help you troubleshoot a little bit. And if it sounds like you're looking for help and we're right fit and you're looking for the strategies that we offer, then I'm happy to offer wellness consultations. That one, of course, is paid, and we spend 90 minutes together, and it's much deeper work. But with discovery call, at least you can get an idea of, is it what I'm looking like? What am I looking for? Is it truly the hormone issue? So I'm happy to share that link as well. We do have our website is midlifewellnessinstitute.com. So you can go in on your own and just click on contact us, and there is a very short discovery call form and get yourself scheduled. But I will share the link with you guys. So if somebody is interested and feels like they need, we're happy to help. We're located in Colorado. We do work remotely. if you truly need to work on hormones, then it's federal law actually that you have to come face to face. But initial consultations we do on Zoom, so we see a lot of people, nationwide. If they need deeper work, of course, they'll have to travel once a year, but it just depends. We don't know until we talk and with you one-on-one and see what's going on and go.
And Dr. Ina is definitely worth the travel for it. And if you guys need help, you definitely want to check her out. I'm definitely making my appointment, and hopefully you guys check the link, make your appointment, get your guide, get you some education there. And if you feel like you really need help, she is definitely the one that I would recommend it for you to reach out, because like you guys can see, she has so much knowledge and it's amazing. Then if you're listening to this episode, you can check out the show notes at www.behealthywithina.com/podcast for the links that she mentioned and any other extra resources you'll be able to find there. Then, Dr. Ina, is anything else you want to say before we close? That was just blowing my mind. It's just so good.
Well, don't settle for it's normal. If you don't feel right, it's not normal. Don't settle for that. Like I said, don't settle for feeling mediocre. You deserve better. You deserve to feel the best self. 30s, 40s, 50s, best part of your life. So don't let it go just because somebody didn't know how to help you. And don't settle for, that's your normal. That's not your normal. So go for feeling the best. You deserve it. And if somebody cannot help you with answers, go elsewhere, find your answers. It's worth it.
Absolutely. I think the hope and deserving, we are humans and we all deserve to feel better. I think it's so important. Doesn't matter how long you've been in pain, how long you've been suffering, how many doctors you see, you deserve to feel better. And there is hope. There's so many different approaches and strategies and ways of looking at the same problem. If you haven't found a solution yet, don't lose hope. Keep looking for, because I am sure you're going to find a solution, because you deserve to feel better. Then for sure. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Dr. Anna, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all those amazing tips and amazing wisdom with us.
Thank you for inviting me, Anna. It was a pleasure to talk about it. And I love that we're so sharing the same passion for health and for making sure that women are educated so they know there are options and they don't have to suffer.
Absolutely. I love talking to you. We can talk for hours. This is so good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to today's episode. And if you enjoy it, make sure you subscribe to our channel, leave us a review, and share our podcast with anyone that you know may need to improve their health. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever we upload our new episode. And if you are ready to reclaim your life and heal from chronic pain, join Be Health Academy. Be Health Academy is a science-based program that offers accountability, pain science education, stress management techniques, ways to shift the mindset, increase body awareness techniques, techniques to release your trauma from the body, and so much more. With the right resources, you have the ability to heal yourself. And you don't have to do it alone. Let me show you the way. Join the Health Academy. That's it for today. Keep it up with the good work. I will talk to you later. And until then, be healthy.